I would address it by saying we want to be very humble from the start because you have to build something. And part of the success, I think, of that Mitchell has had, that Jonathan has had, is because of their staying power. And also, I think it radiates from their authenticity and their day in, day out connection to people. And that's what we have to build in this space. I don't expect us to be overrun. I expect us to do some excellent programming and to really try to reach people who will benefit from that programming and then build an attendance, build an audience, build a following because there are conversations that are taking place, people that are meeting one another, that are forging relationships, something that is real. So I want to do it that way and also always be tweaking, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what we can do, but be really, really kind of, start small and build.
Can I just jump in and say quickly two things, Ray? One is, and I say this really humbly in Mitchell and Christina's presence. I think about events that I've gone to, both the books of books, frankly, but at the Betsy, where there have been very small audiences with an author. And I thought to myself, this is so great. There actually should be 1,000 people here because I wish they all could hear what was being said. But it made the event no less important because 15 people showed up, or 20 or 18 or whatever the number is. But by the way, and again, as Christina and Books and Books curate this thing, if a lot of people show up, we'll figure out a way to accommodate them. But
We'll
we don't
move
measure. We'll find a
into
bigger
a
room
bigger
at the bed.
room.
We'll find a bigger room. But actually, success is really not measured by the scale of it necessarily at the beginning. There's so much. The power of intimacy is something that should not be overlooked as well. And that I'm sure those that show up at the early events, although I'm excited to hear about all the RSVPs that Christina has for the first event, the power of intimacy again should not be underestimated. It's going to be fantastic no matter what because of what gets programmed by Christina and the Books and Books family.
That is
That's
beautifully
that's so
stated.
beautifully said, Jonathan.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Like
that
that.
has
But
been
I think also the fact that you're doing it, which is brilliant, I think, on a regular monthly basis, that's easy to calculate. Everybody knows the last Sunday, everybody will know the last Sunday of every month be at the Betsy.
We hope
And
so.
I think this is going to be wildly successful. And one other thing I'd like to offer, and I don't know if this fits in with how you see this, but we would love to interview the authors for Art Speak, but I'm not sure if you'd prefer that it happen after they talk or before they talk to help promote it.
Before.
Okay, you're on. Send me the list.
But I also want to be really respectful of their time because part of the idea of the mini residency is letting them do whatever the heck they want,
Yeah.
during that time, which is not very long.
Yeah, I was going to jump in to say, one of the great joys and fun aspects of bringing authors in, and of course, Mitchell over many years has done more than we have, but we've done a bunch, is having them discover Miami Beach.
Hmm.
And that may be nothing more than sitting out on our front porch and writing,
Hmm.
but actually giving them those moments of solitude and exploration and so forth, not programming them, over programming them is also
Hmm.
a goal.
Yes.
But we want them to come away from this saying, boy, that was great. 60 people showed up to hear me tell my story. But oh, by the way, we hear it, frankly, all the time, given the nature of our residency program. God, those 3 days, it was only 3 days, but it felt like an eternity because I actually had
The
solitude.
germ of an idea,
Yeah, right,
or
exactly.
you
I
know,
started my next book, or I wrote the first line of my poem, or
Eh,
any of those
Jonathan,
things.
what that
Yeah.
sparked in me was something, and as I get older, I become a little like Billy Pilgrim, in Slaughterhouse Five. I become a little unstuck in time. And so when someone says something like you just said, it brings up something that might have happened a long time ago. So the idea of discovering Miami Beach has always been there. It is even there now because
Yes.
people, as you said, have this very weird view of what Miami Beach actually is. And
Mhm.
in the early days when we were doing events, to show you how long ago it was,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but Granta used to do 40 under 40 or 30 under 30, that sort of thing. Well, the very first class of 30 under 30 included people like Michael Ondaatje, Ian McEwan, um, what's his name, who's coming out with a new book, this incredible list of writers who are now in their 70s, right? But I remember taking, it was probably Ian, it was either Ian McEwan or Michael Ondaatje. We were like showing them Miami Beach in the mid 80s. And the only place that was open to eat was, the News Cafe at that time. And I remember taking this writer there and going, "This is Miami Beach." It's before Miami Vice and all of that. And I looked and their eyes were like bugging out of their head. They could not believe this place. And then I flash more recently, and a writer came and I sent them to Miami Beach. I always send them to the Betsy. I say, have a drink on the porch, do something like that. And I got a text back going, my God, Miami Beach. I think they were staying at the Biltmore or something. So
Mhm.
I can't believe what's going on in my so over the course of 40 years, the sense of discovery on Miami Beach is still there.
Mhm.
People still have
Mhm.
this kind of weird view of what Miami Beach is. And to be honest, Miami Beach keeps remaking itself. I mean, the Miami Beach of the mid 80s is nothing like the Miami Beach now, but there are certain elements of it that never change, which is the kind of wackiness of our politicians, the inability to get on board with the same vision that Jonathan has, which I wish more people would get on board with. So some of that is still there, but the actual essence of being sitting among palm trees, taking a walk on the boardwalk, you know, going and having a drink on the porch of the Betsy and watching the world go by never changes, never does. And that's the beauty of it.